On a scorching summer day at Buckingham Palace, hundreds gathered for the changing of the guard, expecting tradition and ceremony. But what they witnessed was far from ordinary. A lone guard, injured but unyielding, stood in a powerful salute for 3 grueling hours. And then, without warning, Prince William and Kate Middleton stepped into the courtyard and did something that left everyone speechless. What happened next turned a routine event into a moment no one would ever forget. If you've ever visited Buckingham Palace, you know that the changing of the guard is one of those classic British traditions that draws crowds from all over the world. But on this particular summer day, the scene in the palace courtyard wasn't just about the usual pomp and ceremony. It became something extraordinary, and it all started with one man, Corporal Thomas Bennet. Which brings us to Corporal Bennet. He wasn't just any guard standing there in his polished uniform and iconic bearskin hat. This man was a war veteran who had recently returned from a grueling tour overseas. While on that mission, he suffered a serious leg injury, an injury that would have been more than enough to justify taking some time off. But not Corporal Bennet. He wasn't the kind of person to let an injury define him. Instead, he made it his mission to serve, no matter the cost. For him, standing at attention wasn't just about duty. It was personal. It was his way of honouring the comrades he had lost, a silent tribute to their memory and their sacrifices. As the ceremony took place, it didn't take long for people to notice something unusual about him. While the other guards moved through the precision drills of the ceremony, Corporal Bennet stood completely still in the centre of the courtyard, his arm raised in a steadfast salute. At first it might have seemed like just part of the routine, but as the minutes stretched into an hour, it became clear that this was anything but ordinary. The summer sun was relentless that day, beating down on the courtyard with an intensity that made even the spectators uncomfortable. Despite the rising heat, Corporal Bennet didn't flinch. He stood there, his posture firm and his gaze fixed straight ahead. From where I imagined standing in the crowd, you could see the determination etched on his face. A light sheen of sweat glistened on his brow, and every now and then there was a faint tremor in his arm, small signs of the physical toll this was taking on him. But his salute never wavered. You know how crowds are. At first, people were focused on the ceremony itself, taking pictures and marvelling at the tradition. But then, one by one, eyes began to turn toward Corporal Bennet. Whispers rippled through the courtyard as more and more people noticed him. There was something about his stance, about the sheer grit he was showing that drew everyone in. It wasn't just admiration, it was a deep sense of respect. People realised they were witnessing something extraordinary. A few feet away, an elderly man, a retired soldier judging by the medals pinned to his blazer, nudged his wife. "That young man," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "He's standing there despite his injury. That's a tribute, a real tribute." His wife nodded silently, her eyes moist with understanding. For them, and for so many others in the crowd, this wasn't just about watching a guard perform his duty. It was about witnessing courage, resilience, and a powerful act of remembrance. The longer Corporal Bennet stood there, the more the crowd seemed to feel the weight of what he was doing. Parents tried to explain it to their children. A young girl, clutching a small Union Jack flag, asked her mother, "Why is he standing there all alone like that?" Her mother, struggling to find the right words, finally said, "Because it's his duty." But anyone watching could tell it was more than that. It wasn't just duty that kept him standing there. It was heart. The heat was becoming unbearable, and you could see people in the crowd retreating into the shade, fanning themselves with hats and sipping water. But not Corporal Bennet. His uniform clung to him, soaked with sweat, but he didn't move. You could feel the collective tension in the air, a mix of awe and concern. How long could he keep this up? What drove him to such lengths? Veterans in the crowd seemed to understand better than anyone else. You could see it in their faces, the way they watched him with a mixture of pride and sorrow. They knew what it meant to stand there, to push through pain for something bigger than yourself. For them, Corporal Bennett wasn't just a guard. He was a symbol, a living reminder of the sacrifices so many have made. Inside the cool, grand halls of Buckingham Palace, Prince William and Kate Middleton were in the middle of an important meeting with representatives from a veterans organisation. It was one of those engagements that reflected the couple's ongoing dedication to supporting the armed forces and their families. William, with his own military background, and Kate, known for her compassionate approach, had always been deeply involved in causes that helped veterans transition back to civilian life. But even amidst these discussions, word of something unusual happening outside quickly reached them. A palace official stepped in and discreetly shared the story of Corporal Bennett, the guard standing outside in the blazing summer heat. He explained how Bennett, despite a serious leg injury, had maintained a salute for hours as part of a deeply personal tribute. Hearing this, William's face grew serious, his expression reflecting not only concern, but also understanding. After all, William had served in the military himself, and he knew all too well the mental and physical toll service could take. The moment he heard about Bennett's situation, he turned to Kate. Without hesitation, they both agreed they needed to go to him. This wasn't a decision made for show. It was a genuine response, driven by empathy and respect. As they approached, you could see the subtle changes in Corporal Bennett's posture. Though clearly exhausted, he seemed to draw strength from their presence, standing even taller, his salute still firm. William was the first to speak. He came to a stop beside Bennett, close enough for their eyes to meet. "Corporal Bennett," he said, his voice steady but warm. "You honour us all today. Thank you for your dedication." There was a weight to those words, the kind of acknowledgement that only someone who had walked in similar shoes could truly offer. And William meant every word. His tone carried not just admiration, but an unspoken bond, a shared understanding between two servicemen.
To training overseas, such as Kenya in 2018. I have such vivid memories of witnessing what you do so brilliantly in the field.
But what happened next was something no one in the crowd could have predicted. Recognizing the toll the heat and physical strain were taking on the young guard, Kate quietly motioned to a palace attendant who quickly brought over a bottle of water and a portable fan. In a move that was both practical and deeply human, Kate held the water to Corporal Bennett's lips, allowing him to take a few sips without breaking his stance. She then turned on the fan, creating a gentle breeze to cool him down. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it spoke volumes. It showed a kind of empathy that went beyond words, a simple act of care that reminded everyone watching of Kate's genuine compassion. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.